Hello there everybody and welcome to Matt the Dragon Railways, and haven't I got a special review for you today? And it is this, the Rapido train's Lion in 1930s condition. So of course this locomotive's got an interesting and unusual history behind it. If you haven't seen it before, then check out Anthony Dawson on YouTube, his channel. He has a video on Lion. And so I pre-ordered this one from Hatton's for £152.96. Yes, that's quite steep. I ordered it a very long time ago, probably about, well, I think about a year ago, roughly. So, I mean, I've been waiting some time for this, and I'm so glad it's here. So, I think, without further ado, I'm going to open this box up and show you what's inside. Hopefully a lion, and not one that will bite me. So let's have a quick look at the front of the box. You've got the nice illustration, Rapido Trains logo, 00 gauge, Liverpool and Manchester Railway 042 Lion. Nothing else apart from on the side where you've got Liverpool and Manchester Lion, 1930s condition, which is what it is. And it's DC, which is what I run. Nothing on the back of the box and that. And when I open the box, I'm greeted by this lovely owner's manual. Liverpool and Manchester Railway line with a lovely illustration. Owner's manual. Read this first in large text. If you don't, lion might bite. A little bit of cheeky fun there. And the Rapido logo with lion on it, which is nice. And this booklet's quite nice. It's got pictures, parts list, which is useful for if anything gets damaged and you need replacement parts, etc. That's the 1930s condition. That's the 1980s. It's quite hefty and very fine. You've got other stuff like your warranty, fitting sound, etc. Servicing your model, however, I think is a very important thing to note. So after the first sentence, it says the factory lubricant is sufficient for the lifetime of your model, which I think is absolutely fantastic. Not many, I don't actually think I have any other model that says the lubricant should last the lifetime of the model. And being such a fine and delicate model as you'll see, I think that was a very smart way to approach this loco, meaning you're not going to have to risk damaging parts, pulling it apart just to add some lubricant inside. I think I may be tempted still in the back of my head to add lubricant to like the axles and the rods, etc. But I don't know, anyone who's got one or is thinking of buying one, or in general, what do you think you'd do if you had a model that said that it's got enough lubricant to last its life? Would you still be tempted to service it now and then? Of course, cleaning the wheels is a must, but I mean actually opening up the model and filling it with lubricant. But yeah, other general information, they do their little cheeky little side of things, Rapido. They have a bit of humour with their stuff, so yeah. And then when I go towards the detail, there's this detail bag with these black discs. When I first saw it, I was, what on earth are these? Well, when you read the manual, it says these are to cover exposed screws on the model. So I shall show you about that in a minute when I show you the loco itself, but it's quite a clever thing because basically there's exposed rods on the model about here, if I show you this illustration, which you will see when I show you. And I kind of like the idea of this. I mean, the downside is if you haven't got very good eyesight, etc., it's going to be a bit fiddly fitting them because you just glue them on. But the thought behind it, the process, is that you test your loco, make sure it's fine. If it's not fine, send it off. If it's perfectly fine, you can stick them on. And it's sort of, you can have the exposed screws, so if anything's wrong, you can send the model off and Rapido can sort it out for you. But then it means if your model's fine, you can just cover it over and all should be fine. So yeah, I think it's time we have a look at Lion herself. And here she is, the very beautiful Lion. And the first impressions is how tiny this model is. In fact, here's a model chap stood next to it. I mean, that isn't the best for size comparisons. So here I've got the Rapido Hunslet. And it's taller. The only thing taller on Lion is the chimney. It sort of overpowers the height. It's fantastic, really. So yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic size difference. It's so fine and dainty and it's so sweet. It's got such character to it for it. And you can see these exposed screws I was on about here, but like I say, the option is there to cover them if it affects you, if it gets to you and you want them hidden, or you're displaying it or something, for whatever reason you want, you cover it. Now the packaging is really secure for this model. It's the standard clamshell surrounded with foam, etc., which is really good, and the loco and tender does come separately. You have to join them, and you probably can't see it just there, but there's just some pins. They plug in quite easily, and yeah, it's quite easy, and they're joined together. I believe you'd probably be able to separate them. I haven't done it since I put them together because I haven't really needed to, but yeah, I think it goes together nicely, and yeah, it just looks nice. One thing to note when picking up Lion is it's hard to decide where to pick the model up. The tender's easy enough, but because of the loco being an outside frame thing and these rods sticking out, you want to be careful. But the manual does say pick it up from the frame, so I tend to go here or here. I tend to pick it up, you know, a bit like that. And yeah, it does feel a bit awkward, but then I think you get used to it. I sort of got used to picking up this model and that, and it's come out all right. Nothing's fallen off it. I think they've built it to an exceptionally high standard. So I think we shall start looking at detail, and I'm going to be boring and start with the tender. So if I just slide along a little bit, there's the tender, and I'd say it's really nice. The coal load in it is very fine. It has the filling cap there, a little handbrake there, and it's very sweet. All the riveting that should be there is there, and there's also some water drains there which will be part for the injectors. The general chassis is quite nice, quite solid. It looks very fine. You do have the axle boxes, which are nice. You have prototypical brake rigging underneath, and I have found that the wheels are extremely free rolling on this. I can't really demonstrate it here, but I can assure you it is very free rolling, which is very nice. And it also has pickups, which is good, so it means it's not just loco wheels picking up power. The tender also accommodates the speaker and some other little gubbins, and yeah, it's quite nice. Taking a look round the back, you've got the dun buffers, or whatever you want to call them. I forgot what they are. They're slightly sprung, aren't they? But yeah, they're quite nice. Of course not sprung themselves, but yep, that's all right. You've got an NEM coupling, which is very conventional, and then you've also got this other coupling, and this is for, as they say, for hauling rolling stock from other manufacturers, which essentially is the Hornby coaches from like the early range, the like the rocket coaches. So yeah, that's really nice, because in the 1980s the real Lion hauled coaches like that. There's a nice handrail on the back as well, which is in fact incredibly fine. It's really fine and delicate, and it looks really good, and I mean it looks to be fitted to a high quality. Feeling around, I can't tell if any of this is metal. If anything, I'd say the top half, but I doubt it, to be honest. I think it's more plastic. Sorry there, I knocked the camera. So yeah, and then you've got this fold plate, which is actually adjustable. It's on a hinge, so you can flick it up. In fact, when I unboxed the model, it was flipped all the way up, so you could easily see to join loco and tender. And the other side is exactly the same. So let's have a quick look at Lion herself, the loco. So taking around the front, there's a lovely big chimney. It's a noticeable thing, with a metal chimney cap. You've got the buffers again. No NEM couplings at the front. They did say they cannot really find the space for it, which to some people may be a shame, but to be honest, if it had the accommodation at the front anyway, I probably wouldn't be running it with rolling stock at the front anyway. I think it's a sacrifice they made, and I'm quite happy that they made it. I'd rather have that extra fine detail at the front of the loco, where you're going to see it 90% of the time, than compensate it and lose it for a big bulky NEM coupling. Fine details include the I guess on most locos you call it smokebox door, but Anthony Dawson pronounced it as something else. I can't remember what. You've also got this nice chain coupling, which is really fine and nice, and you have two safety chains on the other 1980s model. Looking down, if I just slightly raise the loco gently, you may just be able to make out the fronts of the cylinders, and there are modelled cylinder drain cocks, which are really fine and quite nice. Looking at the side of the model, you've got a little plate here. I believe it's the Kitson Works plate, which is nice. You've got sandpipes here, I believe, which are very nice. If not, that's rigging of some description. I haven't counted myself, although it does look it. One driving wheel has more spokes than the other, which is prototypical, which I think is quite smart of Rapido for going down to that route. It's quite nice. Every rivet on the smoke box is really fine. The boiler barrel itself has got this wood effect. It's quite nice, and it's picked around with golden banding. The firebox has got this big dome over it, which is really nice, and is fairly nicely done. The livery is nice in general. You've got the reddy brown frames, which is really nice. I don't count me on it, but I think it's called Indian Red. I can't remember, or that might be on the Titfield Thunderbolt version. And in general, the green is nice, and you've got the splashes picked out, lined really nicely. You've got the exposed springs, which are nice. If I zoom in a little bit, the Lion nameplate is really nice. The brackets have done really nicely and accurately. The only thing I would say really is the split between the boiler, which is from the loco, you know, through where the motor's inside, etc. But in my personal opinion, sat where I am now, you can see it through the camera, but I cannot see it in person from where I'm sat. If I crouch down, I start seeing it, but I don't think it's too bad. I think it's acceptable. You've also got underframe detail, which you can see. The frames are nice. The rods are incredibly fine. They're really nice and fine, and I think they look really nice. You've also got a step down here, which is quite nice and fine, and these sides, which are really decorative. They're really nice. If I just take you out a little bit, and I'll tell you the boiler now, touching that is die-cast metal. So is the firebox, and I believe the smoke box maybe. Don't count me on it though. But yeah, in general, it's really nice and fine. If I delicately rotate the model and I zoom in a little bit, you can see the regulator there and a water gauge. Now, detail on the water gauge isn't exactly picked out, but it's still good enough. You've got a fire hole door. The back head in general has been nicely done, and in fact this area for the regulator is a separate piece. These safety valves are incredibly fine, and although if you tap them they're delicate, you wouldn't want to turn this upside down just in case it breaks. But I think they've been added and they to a high standard. I doubt they will fall out on you. I just think they're quite sturdy, and I mean, if you're gentle with it, they should be fine. You've also got the whistle, which if you can see here, it's very fine, but you've got the handle there, which goes straight through to the whistle, which is really fine, extremely small, but it's really nicely done. If I spin the loco around a little bit more, you can see the reverser here, which is set into the mid position, I believe. So, and also, just to note, the regulator is classed as shut. The other side is exactly the same and equally as beautiful as the other. The only really main difference is the reverser, to be honest, which I've already said about. But in general, this model is really nice, and I'm going to try and get a look down here. You can see there's just this gap at the front of the model. So if I just raise a camera, and I'll show you down there. So pan down here, you've got the fine handle, and you can just see the cylinder drain cocks as well as other details. But yeah, it's this entire gap down the front, which is it's unusual, but it's nice. And you see the moulded detail of the front of the cylinders, etc. I will not flip this model just to be on the safe side, but I can assure you now, unlike the Hornby version that I've seen, it doesn't have underframe detail. However, I sort of prefer the Rapido one in general over the Hornby for not having it, because what Rapido have done is they've basically given themselves as much room as possible to add fine gearing and etc. to make sure it's an accurate speed when it's running, and it runs quite nicely. And I shall assure you, when you see it down on the layout, it definitely runs really nice. The weight is quite nice on it, and I have seen a video of one of these pulling like 6 Mark 1s fairly happily, so it's strong enough. It's quite a good strength for, especially the size. It's got a good weight to it, and I'd rather, like I say, compensate the detail for performance, especially when it's underneath where you're not going to see it when it's running. So yes, comment down below, what do you think of this model? I think the detail's really nice. So I think the next thing to do is to put it on the layout, test the slow speed, etc., and see how it runs with a little train. And I've got something a little bit special to run for you. So here we have Lion down on the layout, and doesn't it look nice? Please do excuse the lighting, there's been some changes since you've last seen the layout. In fact, the whole layout's been rotated 19 degrees, so I could remain sitting at this side of the layout that I have always done, because I got some new sofas, so they sort of took up the space I had before. So the layout's had a 90-degree flip, but in doing so it has blocked a lot of natural light that hits the room, so do excuse that. Anyway, so here's the wonderful Lion, and it's time to test the slow speed. So I'm actually turning up the controller as I speak. Oh, she jolted into life. Now I know she can do better than that. In fact, she's already demonstrated. There you go, there's a nice slow speed. I could probably go a bit slower. I know. That's about its limit. And I'll tell you now, it copes quite well over the points due to having some tender pickups. So, I mean, that's a useful little feature. So, yeah, she's still going. She's quite smooth, quite lovely. Let's try it in reverse. There you go. A little bit more jolty in reverse, although I have had her running forwards more than anything else. But still quite nice, slow and smooth. You're never going to leave it running at that speed. But I do love the rods with the outside frames, etc. I think it adds quite a lot of character. It's something different, and it's like the earliest period loco I've got. And if you can listen, it's practically silent. All you hear the wheels going over the track. Yep, you don't even hear a motor hum. So yeah, it feels very smooth, under control. It's somewhat different to the Hunslet. The Hunslet had this where if you cut the power completely, it would the wheels would turn another revolution before it would stop, which was quite useful for stalling, etc. Now this doesn't have it, but it seems to be smooth enough and able to manage itself quite well. So I think it's time to couple it up to the train, which I'm sure you can see. So I'll just hook it up now, and I'll just roll it by you slowly. So there's Lion looking lovely. Here's Dan's house. And the towed brake van. So yeah, we're recreating the Titfield Thunderbolt today, because why not? So yeah, enjoy the little running session. So what's my opinion on the Rapido Trains Lion? Well, one word just comes to mind whenever I see it, and that's character. That is what this loco is absolutely jam-packed with. It's lovely tall funnel, the squat looking boiler, the outside frames with the rods going up and down. It's just lovely. I think it's just a lovely little thing to look at in general. But let's talk more the manufacturer's quality. The quality was really good. I find the assembly to be really good. No problems out the box, nothing fell off. The build quality in general was lovely. The paint was lovely in general. The livery's been done nicely. The detail in general, it's a lovely detailed model. It's very accurately done, I think. And with the little screw covers, you can hide them screws straight away, which when I saw production samples I thought, really, are they leaving screws exposed on a model of today? Because I mean, a lot of people don't really like that, as Bachmann have done it quite a lot of times. But to have those covers, that's really good, and the idea of having it exposed for now but can be covered just to make it a bit more serviceable if anything goes wrong, I think that's really smart. I think the speed in general is really nice. This is a nice slow speed for it. I think it looks quite sweet doing that sort of speed. Of course it can go much faster. This is set on 30 on my Gauge Master Combi controller, which is, I think, a nice fair speed for it. The performance in general is really nice. Good slow speed. Feels very smooth under the hand of the controller, you know. I've got the Hunslet as well, and that is also a very smooth model to run. So I mean, Rapido have got it nailed with performance, especially with the such limited amount of space they have with a loco like this. I just can't help but look at it with character. And of course I love doing it with the little Titfield Thunderbolt train. This has completed, I guess, the Titfield Thunderbolt series as such, because it's running. But I mean, I will do a follow-up video. I know I haven't done a long running session today in this review, but that's primarily because I have promised to do a Titfield Thunderbolt running session on the layout with the 14XX, which is just there. So yeah, I mean, that's something to come very soon and to look forward to. So if you're interested in the Titfield Thunderbolt, then please do consider following the channel and keeping an eye out. But yeah, in general, the detail's lovely, the build quality's lovely, and just the general character of the loco's really nice. Like I say, it's the earliest period loco I've got, and I think it's really nice to have something that's changed the layout up a bit, because I have a lot of these larger engines like the Iverts and the later sort of locos, you know, so it's nice to change it up a little bit. Price wise, now I haven't actually really thought much about price, because in all honesty I've just been too busy enjoying running this loco with, like I say, its character it's got. Price wise, for the time they've put into it, the dedication, the fighting through, because Hornby went and announced them after they said they'd make them, that general stuff, I mean, they've definitely put time in and worked hard to get this model out of it. And I mean, the performance is flawless, everything is flawless, it's been built to a high standard and it runs to a high standard. So with modern prices considered as well, I think this is about right. So yeah, I'm very pleased with this model in general. I just think it's a sweet little thing and I shall cherish it. I shall definitely look after it, you know, because it's just so sweet and characterful. So yeah, I think that's it for this video. If you did like it, please do leave it the thumbs up. Share this video with your friends if anyone else you know is after one of these, or has one coming, or has got one, or anything like that. Anyone who you think this video may be interested in, share it to them. Sharing is caring, helps the channel get out there and for others to see. Also, please comment down below, what do you think of this model yourself? Have you got one yourself? What do you think about the thought of never having to service this loco internally? I think that is just really unusual. It seems pretty alien to me, so I'd love to hear your opinion. What yours is like if you've got one yourself. And I mean anything in general, just say hello. I always read your comments and I always put in the effort to reply. And finally, please consider subscribing. Like I said, I'm going to be doing a Titfield Thunderbolt running session soon, so if you're into stuff like that, then do subscribe to the channel so you can be aware of when it's up. And if you want notifications on every single video, I'm sure you've heard it all a million times by now, click the bell icon and you will be notified of any videos of mine coming up. But I think apart from that, I'm just going to let the lovely lion who didn't bite me roll by, and I shall see you all next time. Cheerio for now. Now what a lovely model.